We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution of the United States of America. With these words, the authors of our Constitution guaranteed freedoms that are protected by law across our country and here in our beautiful state of Idaho. From the largest city to the smallest town. Thomas Jefferson reminded us that among the three bedrocks of freedom in this country are freedom of religion, freedom of speech, and the right to trial by jury. The right to jury trial allows citizens, such as yourselves, to engage in the process of our government in a way that no other public service provides. To sit in judgment on the facts of a case allows you as an individual juror to hold our government to the principles of its Constitution. We know that if we are accused of a serious crime, or if we have a significant civil dispute, there is a system that will deal justly with all parties. We know this is true because we will be judged by an impartial jury of our peers.
I am Richard Bevan, one of the 5 justices who together comprise the Idaho Supreme Court. It is an honor to welcome you to jury service in the state of Idaho. Your service is critical to our principles of freedom, fairness, and the rule of law. We have sent you some jury information materials, including a pamphlet about jury service. Now, I invite you to have a look at this brief presentation as an introduction to the important service you are about to participate in. Among the 5 justices on our Supreme Court, we have more than 160 years of combined service to the American justice system. On behalf of the court, I assure you that the entire court system could not function without you, the juror.
The system of trial by jury dates back more than 700 years. It's a great triumph of individual liberty in the exercise of government power. In fact, a trial by jury is considered so important in this country that it's guaranteed by the Constitution of the United States of America and by the Constitution of the state of Idaho. But the right to trial by jury means nothing without jurors like yourselves. That is why your service as a juror is critical. As a juror, you may be called upon to resolve a civil lawsuit, like a dispute between parties over a contract. Or you might participate in a criminal case, which requires you to decide whether a person charged with a crime is guilty or not guilty. The responsibilities are substantial, and they are very important. Regardless whether you're called for jury service in a criminal case or in a civil case, remember that the trial you are participating in is one of the most important events in the lives of the people in front of you, and your decisions will have a lasting effect on their lives. It is important that you understand the difference between a criminal and a civil trial. In a criminal trial, the accused is on trial for the jury to determine whether the state of Idaho has proven its case against the accused beyond a reasonable doubt. If you are here for a criminal trial, the judge will tell you more about this a little later. If you are here for a civil trial, each side, the plaintiff and the defendant, come to court so the jury can settle a dispute between them. The plaintiff in the civil trial is the party who has filed the lawsuit.
Because the responsibilities are so serious, regardless of the kind of case you will hear, you and your fellow citizens should think of your jury service as an honor and as a duty that should make you proud. Your friends, your neighbors, and our entire state depend on you.
Most people will only be called once or twice to serve as a juror in their entire lifetimes, so there can be a little mystery about what to expect. First, your selection as a juror was completely random. The counties throughout our state use voter registration records, a list of licensed vehicle drivers, or other sources of names to randomly select jurors. No one in Idaho is exempt from being called to jury service. Judges, attorneys, teachers, doctors, even the governor must respond if called. There are no automatic or occupational exemptions from jury service. But once you've been called, the state of Idaho tries to make your service as effective as possible. After your name was picked, you were asked to complete a questionnaire to determine if there were any reasons why you should not serve at this time. Because there were no immediate problems with your questionnaire, you were given instructions to report to a courthouse or other facility to begin service on a particular date and time. If you ever have questions about your jury service, your jury commissioner or other court staff can help answer your questions. Coming to court is still a fairly formal event, even in today's culture where being casual is commonplace. You'll be expected to wear comfortable but professional or business casual attire, and you should wear clothing that avoids offensive graphics or has any other reason to be out of place in a dignified court setting. This kind of formality is still appropriate for the seriousness of a jury trial. Once you arrive at the courthouse, you will be directed to a jury assembly area, and from this point forward, your day will be very structured. You may notice that a lot more jurors have been called than you might have expected, certainly more than a 6 or 12-member jury. This is called a jury pool. Once you've reached the courtroom, you will be seated in the gallery, sometimes in a pre-selected random order. You will be administered an oath or affirmation to serve as a juror, and the judge will give you some important information about the case. Right away, you will be asked to view this presentation, and then you will be questioned by the judge and by the attorneys in a process known as voir dire. This is an old French phrase, and it means to speak the truth. It is the time in the trial when jurors are asked careful questions by the judge, as well as the attorneys. These questions aren't meant to pry into your private lives, but they are essential to allow both parties to obtain information necessary to select the jury they decide will be appropriate for their case. Some of you may be excused from the jury panel during or after this process. The law allows a juror to be excused for 2 reasons. The first reason is called challenge for cause, meaning the lawyers may ask that you be excused for some legal reason. For example, you may be related to one of the parties. The second reason is called a peremptory challenge. Both parties are given an equal number of these challenges. Peremptory challenges occur at the end of the questioning process. The lawyers are not required to give a reason for these challenges, although neither party may excuse you based on your race or gender. In this way, each party has an equal say about who makes up the jury. You should not consider a challenge to be any reflection on your ability or character. In fact, the same attorney or party may choose you for another case, for the very reason you're not selected in this case. When you're asked a question during voir dire, please speak clearly and truthfully. If you're asked a question that you feel is personal or private, just let the judge know and you will likely be given an opportunity to discuss the matter privately. If you're chosen to sit as one of the jurors for the case, you will play an important role in our system of justice. Once the jury has been selected and seated, the trial will be presented to the jury by all sides in the case. The judge will read you instructions that establish the rules for how to conduct yourself as a juror. You will also be given a description of the law that applies to the case you are deciding. You will usually get to see all of the trial, but once in a while, the attorneys and the judge may need to speak privately where you cannot hear them. Don't be concerned about that. It's just one way that our fair trial system has developed over time. No doubt you have seen plenty of court drama TV shows or movies, and you're probably pretty familiar with the roles of each of the key players in a jury trial already. First, you might notice a person near the judge's bench typing very fast during the trial. This is the court reporter, who is responsible for creating a word-for-word record of the trial. Some courts in Idaho use audio recorders for this process, and some use both systems. The bailiff is another important person in the jury trial. The bailiff is in charge of maintaining order in the courtroom. and assists the judge and jury during court proceedings. He or she may also be given the job of handling documents, papers, or other evidence. The court clerk is usually seated close to the judge. The clerk is responsible for a variety of functions, including administering oaths and affirmations, keeping track of exhibits presented in court, and other important clerical duties. Then you will see the judge, as well as the attorneys and the parties in the case. The judge and the attorneys and witnesses will get most of your attention during the trial, but it is vital throughout the trial that you follow the rules for juror conduct. I want to highlight the most important rules now. You should not read, listen to, or view news media accounts about your trial. You must base your decision solely on what you learn in the courtroom. Newspaper, radio, or television reports might give you an unbalanced view of the case, or might cause you or other jurors to form hasty conclusions before all of the evidence and testimony has been presented. That would be unfair to the parties and to the jury trial process. You might be tempted to informally discuss this case with your fellow jurors on a break, or to tell your friends about the trial details. You might be strongly tempted to use your mobile devices or computers at home in order to look into jury trial rules, or to do a little legal research on your own. Social media activity of all kinds will be another big temptation while you are serving on a jury. Those temptations must be avoided no matter what. Please remember to stay off of the internet and social media during the jury trial. Please use your cell phone only for communication rather than for surfing the web or social media. This is because the information you will be shown, called evidence, and the instructions in the law that will be given you by the judge should be evaluated by you and the other jurors without any outside influences. If you use outside information, it can cause the jury trial to be invalidated in a process called a mistrial.
If you become aware of any outside influence like this, we need you to let the bailiff or your jury commissioner know about it. Please do this confidentially. Keep an open mind. Do not form hasty opinions or conclusions. Rather, wait until all the evidence has been presented and the case has been submitted to make up your mind. Control your emotions too, if possible. Jury trials can be filled with emotion, and you may be confronted with exhibits or testimony that makes you feel uncomfortable. If your case will involve this type of evidence, the judge and the attorneys will give you a chance to comment about your feelings during voir dire. Please do so, and try your best to remain objective throughout the trial.
After all the testimony has been given and after evidence has been presented, the judge will explain the issues you must decide upon and give you more rules of law that apply to the case. Each attorney then has the opportunity to make closing arguments to summarize the case from their perspective. The closing argument is not evidence. It's simply the attorney's opportunity to persuade you about the strength of the evidence that supports their positions. As a juror, you're in a position of great responsibility, especially at this moment. Once the judge has instructed you on the law and the lawyers have offered their closing arguments, you'll be escorted into the jury room for deliberations. First, you must select a presiding juror to act as a discussion leader. Then you will begin your deliberations. Again, it's important for you to consider carefully the evidence that was presented and the judge's instructions about the law. Please voice your opinions and listen to the opinions of the other jurors while you're deliberating. Your active participation is expected during deliberations. When it comes time to vote, base your decision on the facts and the instructions as given you by the judge. Any communications made with the judge at this point must be made in writing. The presiding juror will pass the written note to the bailiff, and then it will be presented to the judge, who will answer the question or give guidance, usually in writing. Once you and the other jurors have reached a verdict, you will return to the courtroom in order to pass the verdict to the judge. The judge or the clerk may read it out loud, or the judge may ask the presiding juror to read it out loud. Sometimes, each juror may be asked to confirm that the verdict is correct. After the verdict has been read, your job is completed. When leaving the jury room, you do not have to talk to anyone, not even the press, about your thoughts on the trial. If you decide you want to speak about the case, you should be careful to respect the privacy of your fellow jurors by giving only your perception and feelings.
We hope you will agree with us that the right to a trial by jury is one of the cornerstones of our republic. And we also acknowledge and appreciate that jury trials involve personal sacrifice from those citizens called upon to serve. This has always been true, but is especially true during these unique and trying times.
Now, coming to public buildings like court facilities, we want you to feel safe and confident in the way that public health concerns are being managed. Our court officials are working with public health authorities to make sure that court operations stay current with public health guidelines. Sometimes decisions about the safety of a court facility are made with fairly short notice, so please contact your jury commissioner at least 72 hours before your jury duty begins to make sure you have the latest public health guidance for your jury duty. If public health guidance is changed, your jury commissioner will also be able to discuss those changes with you before you report for jury service. You will probably be required to wear a solid colored face mask over your nose and mouth while you are in a court facility, so please bring one, or one will be provided for you when you arrive for jury duty. And if you are a person who will need an accommodation under the Americans with Disabilities Act, please contact your jury commissioner at least a week in advance of your jury duty.
We are all following public health guidance, and we want you to follow that guidance too, since your role is so critical to this justice system. Feeling nervous is normal when you begin jury service, and you might have other worries because of public health concerns. Let us worry about the steps to keep the court facility healthy. And we want you to focus on your important role as a member of the jury. As an American citizen and a resident of the state of Idaho, you are guaranteed certain freedoms by our Constitution. One is the right to a trial judged by an impartial jury. Your different backgrounds and life experiences are crucial to make this system work. You bring a unique perspective in analyzing the case, which provides balance and fairness for all. On behalf of the Idaho judiciary and the citizens of the state of Idaho, I thank you for your participation. Thank you for watching, and thank you for this important public service.